Mike Galimi with Hot Rod Magazine, and I've had a career in this industry, and I think where it starts is with these guys, the Briante family, longtime Pro 50 racers, longtime Mustang racers, and our history goes back to, I don't know, maybe I was 15 or 16 years old, really getting into the hobby and learned so much from them. So to be here, 25 years after NMRA starts, they've won championships here, they've won plenty of races here, and it's just the level of experience that these guys have brought to the sport has been fantastic. And Mr. Briante, I think you're the first one where it starts with, you kind of grew up in the heyday of, when the car scene really took off, the 60s, the 70s, learned so much, and then you started to enjoy the sport with your kids. Did you ever think that when you started off with a little bracket car with your sons that it would turn into, a business, a hobby, a life calling, championships, and all that's came with it? All those years ago, did you ever imagine the Mustang scene would be what it is?
No, we were in it for fun and to go fast. That's basically what we did. We didn't care about bracket racing. We just wanted to go faster every week. And that's what we were working on with our program. And then the series were starting to happen around, and we started running quick eights and traveling, and then the NMRA came about, and we followed that circuit for a bunch of years.
So, it all starts, obviously, you had your Maverick, you've had the super gas car, these guys were trying to go faster, but, there was a little shootout, a Super Ford shootout, where I think you had a Mach 1 that was a notorious street racer on the New York scene, and that's kind of your first taste of heads-up racing, wasn't it, at the track, is doing the shootout with Super Ford?
It was a different format, and I remember it like it was yesterday. It was a great time out at Maple Grove. We did really well the first time out, and that kind of opened up the door for what we started doing. We're like, all right, the track wasn't a bad place to be.
Yeah, and next step, yes, you're having fun. You get in early on the nitrous thing, right? And Top Gun nitrous system, I remember back in the day, and really when it was a really evolving technology at the time of probably late 80s, and yep. Then there's, Jim with his late model Mustang, but then you guys had an 82 Mustang. That's kind of where you guys really come into the Mustang scene, the late model side at that point with the Fox bodies. And you kind of picked up where your brother took off on the Super Ford, but then it led to Pro 50. Jim, tell us about the early days when it was really evolving, where, the technology wasn't there. And you guys were basically writing the book as you went along.
Yeah, it was. In the early days, it was like we were building an airplane while we were flying it. We were originally going to build a 66 Mustang, but we saw such good things happening in the Mustang shootout scene that we made a decision to pull the motor out of that and put it in this 82 Fox body, and got ourselves started. And then really, there wasn't a ton of manufacturer support early on, so we started to establish some initial partnerships. And then we needed to, we'd go out, we'd race, we'd break stuff, we'd learn. We created the feedback loop with our partners to start working on, better manufacturing processes, adjustments that would need to get made in their products. And these were the seeds of the relationships with all these different manufacturers. The one helped all the racers get better, but also these were the partners that the NMRA ended up having with throughout its sponsorship. For years and years with the organization. So it was fun. Drag racing's changed so much over the years. A lot of things are completely lined out right now, but back in the day, there was no roadmap, man. We had to figure it out.
And that was also the fun of it. And I do remember coming up, seeing you guys building the 82 for that shootout. That's like the first scene. Like my brothers and I come up to the shop. Their shop was the Bat Cave, right? You guys had this on this private property on top of this hill, and you'd kind of go up this winding road, and then you'd get there, and there was a super gas car outside, and we get there, we're like, man, if this thing's outside, what the hell is inside the shop? And we walk in, and then you guys, one of the few people who built everything, right? And you were building the chassis, your dad did the engines, Jim kind of did everything, and obviously he was the driver, the front man of the whole operation, but it turned into a business for you after a while.
It did. We saw that we could make money out of it, and we had, people approaching us. We started doing it part-time, and we were like, all right, let's see what we can do with this. So we started doing mail-order parts. My father was building engines. We were doing God knows how many rear ends and gears, and we had a nice little package for the 5.0s that were running all over the place, and it was a blast back then. And trying different combos and seeing who had, the best cylinder head for this application, and it just kept going from there.
Yeah, and it was always the package, right? Like it was the Briante package, and you couldn't get the Briante racing stickers. Until like it was like you were like in the 11s or something like that. My brothers and I were in high school, like, oh man, we're never gonna be able to afford to do anything like this. But it was great, and like it was gears. I think was the first thing that we all got from the shop, and it was
Biggest
just
bang for the buck.
And it was just step after step, and the NMRA was like a marketing thing for you guys, right? And that's so many businesses were built out of it. We talked to Justin Bertram before with JPC, which led to him opening his shop, you guys opening your shop, Robin Lawrence, getting in the aftermarket. Me, like I worked on Wall Street, and it ended up being a career over all of it from the NMRA, which is pretty spectacular because you guys took the the win on Sunday, sell on Monday, really to the next level. And the early ads and Muscle Mustangs and Fast Forwards, be a gangster, right? You guys remember that? It was Italian guys from New York, and the gangster was a big part of it. And you guys had the guy with the Tommy gun. I think that's I think it resonated across the country. But Mr. B, it went from simple Cleveland engines and basic stuff to 2,000 horsepower when that was unheard of. And just see that evolution. How did that work for you?
Well, the Cleveland engines. We did a lot of work on the Cleveland engines. Cylinder heads weren't available. You had the NASCAR heads at the time, and we started filling ports and moving ports, and the Clevelands ran real well, and then the aluminum cylinder heads, similar to the NASCAR head, came on the circuit, and then the motorsport blocks. So we took advantage of all that early, and we had very good cylinder head people that worked with us on what our thoughts were and what their thoughts were. And our success early on was the cylinder heads. We had I think we had an up on most of our competition with the cylinder heads. And after that, we were nitrous, and then we went to the supercharger. Superchargers are more reliable for us. The engine could stay in the car pretty much the whole season, whereas the supercharged car, the nitrous car would come out after every race, and Jimmy would be the guy taking it apart, and I'd have to go see what damage was there or not, and we'd get ready for the next race. And as the business got going more and more, our car stayed in the trailer till Wednesday night and didn't get out of the trailer till it was almost time to leave for the race. So our own program was starting to hurt a little because we were being so successful with the business end of it. So that's basically what drove us, and we had a great time with it, had a lot of success, and Anthony was an innovator with the stuff that he was doing, and Jimmy was on top of our marketing program, helping out tremendously with what we were getting help from all the manufacturers.
So Jim, the transition, you obviously were tired of pulling engines out, and you made the switch to a supercharger with EFI system, and you kind of became the de facto guy on the EFI, tuning. How was that where you got your first taste of power management and, MSD 7531 box? And, I remember, testing it at ACO on small tires. It's, it was really the early stages of the modern traction control in drag racing.
Yeah, it was a good experience. It was an intimidating experience early on, figuring out just how to get up and running. I think, Wayne Young down at Young's Performance was good enough after like one conversation just to give us a base map to get us started. Hadn't even met the guy at the time. He was good enough to do that. But from there, we, digging in there and figuring out how the car responded to the timing map changes and the fuel changes, and how to get the car to recover better on gear changes and launching on different track conditions at the different racetracks. There was so much to learn so quickly. And then, taking into consideration back in the day, we didn't really used to run on great racing surfaces. So we had to do a lot of power management, trying to create, the timing curves. And then when the 7531 came out, really trying to figure out for the first time, we raced a couple small tire races. That was the only time we ever used it. But figuring out how to operate that correctly, it was it was the beginning of all that stuff today. It seems archaic what we were doing back then compared to what they have today as far as traction control. But it was a neat experience getting to start to take control of these big beasts that we had created with a laptop.
And I think that's, 25 years of NMRA that's meant so much to all of us, from, careers to hobbies to just even friendships. It's definitely been a fantastic run, and, thankful for Steve putting this together to get us all back together.
Want to thank Steve and everybody that helped put this together. It was great last night catching up with everybody, and looking forward to tonight to seeing everybody again and finishing conversations that we were having. It's great to see a lot of people are still involved as well in it.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I am grateful for when I think back to
Mr. B, final thoughts on racing with your sons?
It was an experience at the track with the nitrous car. We'd think nothing of pulling an engine. I think we were out I think it was the first race of the NMRA program at Maple Grove, I think it was. And we had to pull the engine, change a rod and a piston, and Billy Glidden came over and he said, "I see you're busy, I'll let you go." And I think we ended up racing him in the final, and he won that race, the first NMR race. And but we had a great time with my sons. I mean, we still do, and we're still playing with cars, and I stay on top of what's going on with the engines, and if we wanted to, we could get right back into it. I don't have any thoughts that we wouldn't be able to be where we were with it, but it's a lot of fun, and this was great to see everybody here.
25 years of NMRA drag racing, and these guys helped kick it off.